Hello, my friends. God, I forgot to shave my head. Here in rainy New York, just got in last night. Yeah, bunch of people coming out to New York. There's Fashion Week. There's shows. There's records being made. There's art stuff. Just got here from Nashville. Had a great time there for a few weeks, doing some writing, doing some producing. And yeah, gonna be here in New York for a couple of weeks. I see Jon on there. I'll jump on here in a second. I think he's showing up here soon in New York as well as on the stream. And yeah, show up here in New York, and all of a sudden, the whole city is pouring rain. Where's Jon? There he is. I'll get him right now. Oh, thank you for the compliment on the buzz cut there, chat.
Damn, the boy's got a fresh cut.
I'm trying to do the I can't remember the actor's name from Ex Machina, where he has the shaved head and the beard. Like, that's a hard look. I'm gonna do that. You've seen Ex Machina, right?
Yeah, of course. I don't remember the guy though. I don't remember who it is, but
the main
movie's
dude.
crazy.
Yeah, he's been in a million things.
Yeah, I know. I forget his name. He's so tight.
Somebody in the chat, who's the dude from Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Who's also the dad in Dune?
Yeah.
Something.
Oscar Isaac. There he is.
Oscar Isaac. There you go.
Yes, of course.
Trying to get my my Oscar Isaac on. We'll see. See how it
goes. Have you ever seen his performance in? I think it's called A Marriage Story on HBO.
I hear it's great.
Jessica Chastain.
I hear it's great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Dark shit, but it's so good.
Yeah. You know, when I'm in a mood for some dark shit. It's funny, people have been recommending me things recently, and it's like, yeah, it's really depressing, but it's so good. I'm like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
That's all I'm doing right now. It's the U.S. Open and really depressing stuff.
Well, you will be much less depressed when you make it out to New York. When you get here, you get later in the week or something?
Thursday night I land, but I'm going to Long Island to see my family for the night, and then I'll be in Friday night.
I always hesitate to like talk about all the personal business and plans and things like that, but I know there's gonna be a lot of people in town. I was just chatting with our buddy Tyler and a few others about hanging out, and it's gonna be a lot of fun out here. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right. Today's a good day. I texted you earlier. I bench pressed my body weight for the first time since high school, so that made me feel fucking good today. I haven't really been able to try. I haven't had like the courage to try to go that hard by myself, just because the spotter, you know.
There's no need to do any of that. You don't need to go hard.
But I did, and it's all good.
You did. good.
That's what I'm saying. Also got first time in a excuse me. I still have a cough for like over a month now. It's annoying. So if that happens, I'm sorry, guys.
By the way, I've got a little cough too. I caught a little cold about a week ago. Not COVID, but I think all of the other coronaviruses, which have existed for a long time, people may or may not know. It's like some high percentage of colds are various coronaviruses. Now all of our immunity has been gone from the last couple of years. So flu and cold is all kicking up again, which is awesome.
Yeah. But super fun last few days. I've had attended sessions with artist and producer in room, and man, every time it happens, I'm just stoked. You get to try stuff, you get to move things around, you get to mute things, you get to just see the record in its pure form with everybody in the room. Like, oh, well, why did you do that? Why did you do that? How did you do that? Oh, that's cool. And like, you get to talk about it. All right, well, maybe we need to do more of this. Oh, I see why you did that. Let's go deeper there. It's like, oh man, it's like, the collaborative process is kind of phenomenal. And, talking about watching depressing things, like this is the opposite of depressing. The communal aspect of record making is so fun, joyous, fulfilling, all of the words that we look for when it comes to like validation of existence and purpose are for us, for people like us. This is not obviously for everybody in that process. With people around, not by ourselves, sending a track to a friend and being like, yo, that's tight. It's like, that's validating to a degree. But when you're in the room and everyone's agreeing on the outcome of moves and decisions, that's it.
Oh, it's the best, man. I mean, you obviously know that's how
that's how I've set up my whole life. That's honestly why I can't be a full-time mix engineer, because I like hanging out with people and I like being in the room all the time. That's why we started these streams. Like, I like talking about this stuff. I like hanging out with folks. I do like being by myself and tweaking and like how bright should this snare drum be against the vocal. And I love that. But boy, is it just fun to be in the room with people and talk about making records. And yeah, that energy, it's just like the energy in the room is really what I live for.
I mean, we're taking breaks. We're watching the US Open together. We're ordering food. We're making coffees. Like, it's just it's a day in the life, right? It's a day in the life of the process. Now, I don't think I should talk about it from the other vantage point of, I actually didn't have as much fun when I was producing and writing when we were in other studios or a small room with no windows. And I feel claustrophobic in those circumstances, even though I really like people, like you're talking about, hanging out and vibing and having conversations that I would not have with myself, potentially. Although right now I am kind of talking to myself, but for other reasons. And I think that this example of it, this space that, I forgot who I was hanging out with. It might've been Tyler. I think it was Tyler. We were at dinner the other night, and he said that it's very hard for me not to see you and your space at the same time. Like, I see you and I see your space. You're connected to that place. That is part of you. And I agree. I would like to kind of detach at some point from that. But at this point in my life, that is very accurate. And, I've curated this aesthetic, not intentionally for any sort of purpose other than my own comfort, and then in turn hoping that it extends to other people's comfort. So that is a very specific thing for me, or types like me that are a bit more introverted but down for hosting on occasion and having people over on occasion. But in the dark studio, that is not, I don't fly free there, and I don't feel confident there on a regular basis. So these types of experiences really, really make me understand why I made the decision to not be in a big studio with other people. Because I do sometimes struggle with maybe when you're in a group studio and there's other people coming and going, maybe you'll get more work, right? Because maybe, so-and-so's next door, you should meet Castelli, he's mixing, and maybe he should mix your project. Like, I'm sure that does happen. But what's the trade-off for, life satisfaction, in the space that you want versus some dark corridor?
Well, as we talk about, everybody's personality is different. And also, it gets to this idea about people talk about balance all the time. There's a lot of value in thinking about things as balance, but I also think there's a lot of value in thinking of it slightly differently. It's almost like, what is the diversity of experiences you want to have? Because there's no real such thing as balance. You're only doing one thing at a time. So if you're doing one thing and then you need to balance it with something else, you are sort of by definition out of balance until something happens. I think the idea of having, what is your diversity of experiences you want to have? Because if you are a mix engineer, you are a songwriter, you are a mastering engineer, whatever it is, you're going to have moments where your collaborators are going to be like, we're going to do this for these couple of weeks, or your work is going to be like, I'm going to say yes to these things, and then you're going to be doing one thing. What are the various other things that you like to do, that you haven't done, that you want to try to do? Even like, something that obviously the pandemic has shown a lot of us is like how quickly, when things change, you go, what was my routine? What did I like doing? How has that changed now that I can't see people, or I'm doing more of this or less of this? It's really put a lot of things into focus. I think that the idea of getting in the room and being around people, I don't know. I mean, I think it's maybe the most underrated thing in all of humanity right now, since we've been so cooped up. Boy, is it great to get in a room with people and just make stuff. And whether you're a mix engineer or whether you're a songwriter or whatever, even in the little room I was in a small one of these Nashville writer rooms. I did have the shout out Spider, who connected me with the PMC guy there. I borrowed a pair of PMCs, and but in that little room, they actually sounded great. And just to even be in a little windowless writer room, it was a blast being in the room with people and just making stuff. There's something really beautiful about that. Those of us that we're all introverted in a lot of ways. There's a discomfort that you and I had when we started doing these things. but boy, is it just great to get in the room. I'm glad you're having that experience. And we're gonna do social things in New York. So there's gonna be a lot of people. Maybe after New York, you'll want to just go back and be like, I don't want to see anybody for like a month. I just want to go.
Well, I was just traveling. I just went to Portland for a weekend, and coming back home, I was reflecting on the idea of home, right? And I've had a struggle my whole life with the idea of what home means. Like, I imagine home is something that's shared, whether it's with a partner, your family. And since growing up on Long Island, though I love my family, since I learned that there was more than Long Island to look at and be in, I was trying to escape Long Island. Like, I didn't, Manhattan was obviously the closest thing, and I would sneak into the city as often as I possibly can, and kind of learn the city with no money. That's the best way to learn the city. You're not can't go to dinner, so you're just wandering and finding new places to maybe get a $2 falafel or whatever that looks like. But a lot of outdoors and exploration, and that's kind of been my MO my whole life, is these wandering cities, and traveling to Paris is why I love that. There's this maze capability to that city. Barcelona, same thing. It's you could just get lost, and then maybe you'll find your way back, and that's okay if you don't. We have a phone now, so who cares? We'll figure out our way. So when I find myself at home after a trip, I've wondered why I've always felt this way, but I come home, I'm extremely lonely, in a positive sense, or I guess that would be solitude versus loneliness. Being there and then reflecting on what you just did is how you even gain perspective on the new intake. You return home a stranger, in a sense. I'm now a new person because I've experienced more, and then I can decide what to do with those new experiences. But the only way to do that is to sit and reflect in your own home or your own space. I wonder how that translates to you with nomadic life, but you've had a home for so long that maybe you're now, doing a different version of this where you're accumulating experience, right? You're maximizing the potential for yourself to have new experience. So then maybe you'll return home in 2 years, and you'll maybe settle down somewhere, but you'll have this. I recognize that I need travel, but I think I like travel because I like to return home. And I would like to find what home is for me. I don't think it's here.
I think we're all searching for that, and I think my instinct is in the long run to settle in a place and have a family and have a home base, maybe have a few home bases or something but really have a solid place with family. I've talked, it's been a year now, by the way. It was a year a couple of days ago that I've been nomadic, which is it's both been a really long year and it's flown by in different ways, depending on how I look at it. And I'm going to keep doing it for a bit. I probably will end up in LA for much of the winter. There's a few potential big projects, plus it's cold everywhere else. Maybe go to Miami briefly. But one of the main reasons is a version of what we're talking about, which is one of the main reasons I did this is a version of what we're talking about, which is I wanted to push myself from a creative standpoint. And I found when I'm in a space that has all exactly my gear and I'm used to it, I'm actually great in the mixing realm because everything is and finishing productions. It's everything is comfortable. Somebody gives me something that's 90% done on the production end and I'm mixing, or they just send me something to mix, or I'm just kind of, whatever it is, the sort of finishing thing is super, super easy for me comparatively when I'm in a space that is comfortable. And I know the speakers, I know the high end, I know the low end, I have my tools, I come back to it, but I don't make as interesting songs when I'm writing or productions when I'm purely producing because everything is so comfortable. And that's just, over the years of doing it, I've done it for a long time, making records, and I just got a little too comfortable. I mean, there are other reasons as well, but on a creative standpoint, that's a big part of why I did it, is just getting out of the space of comfort and allowing myself to react in a way that was like when I was learning. Because a big part, I've made some of my favorite records when I was in my late teens, early 20s, most of which people haven't heard, have a lot of flaws, that sort of thing. But some of my favorite things or when I didn't know what I was doing and I couldn't reach for something that was comfortable. I now have so many comforts. I have like the synth patch for low end, and I have my 6 808s that I can go through when I'm doing something. And I know what hi-hats are going to translate against what kind of vocal, and I know how to do all that stuff very well. And I like doing it, but I was like, let me do something jarring that actually makes me feel like I'm a kid that has to figure it out. There's a level of anxiety that exists now in my life, which is by design. So I expect it. I'm aware of it. I know what it's like to not have that anxiety, but I put myself in a position where I don't have all the tools. I don't have all the colors in the crayon box. I have limited tools, a place I don't really know that well, and I can just go much more on instinct. And because my instincts are developed over a few decades, my instincts are much better than they were when I was a teenager, but I don't have the same. So it's a different kind of configuration, and that's been really, really good for me, and it's been really fun. It's been really exciting. So yeah, I don't know. It's been a really good thing for me. I just actually got a few things today and in the last week to mix some more things. So I just put on my Instagram, where can I get a studio with PMC in New York, which I'm sure I'll talk
let me know, just in case I need one next week too when I'm in town.
Oops, sorry, I got you there. I lost you for a second. Maybe we'll both.
Let me know what you come up with, because I might
split a studio.
I might need a studio. So.
Definitely. All of a sudden it's like, I got to mix stuff, and I really do. I mixed some stuff when I was in LA, and that's the challenge. That's the other challenge is now mixing is a bit tougher because I don't have a super comfortable studio to do that. But these are part of the challenges, and I'm enjoying it immensely. So you might actually work out here.
Well, I'm setting up Josh is in Virginia right now. He's going to log in remotely and set up my new laptop to have a double rig. I mean, I can log in TeamViewer and deal with the latency if I want to. I was in Portland doing notes from coffee shops. Like, I'm also trying to deal with the anxiety and challenge myself to not be so landlocked to LA moving forward in my life. I bought a pair of old discontinued Grado headphones that Dale Becker swears by, the PS1000s.
Yeah. I like those. I used to have a pair of those. And
I'm grabbing like an Apogee, single, either USB DAC kind of thing. And I'm going to just see what I can do on headphones. And then, if something is really major and I like really need speakers, finding a studio. I'm sure there's something in New York. My purpose for doing this, I think we talked about, I want to go do most of December in London and Paris by myself. So, there's going to be 2 weeks of work while I'm gone, or maybe a week and a half, depending on how I book the travel. And if I need to go finish something in London, I'll go to Metropolis. They have a PMC room. I'll try to rent it. And if I'm in Paris, maybe I find a spot with some decent speakers. And I just want to see if I could do it. I've never done it. I've never been interested in trying. I love the comfort zone. We've talked about that a bunch of months back. We have an episode called The Comfort Zone. I am very much into the comfort zone because of the way I feel my instincts react. And I, like this hang time with attended session that we were just talking about. 2 of the songs I got asked to turn on producer John Brain, and I said cool, as long as I'm not getting credited. Like I'm never, we talked about that, I'm never looking for the producer credit. But there was a lot of arrangement changes on 2 songs, and one specifically I just reshaped the entire record, and I loved it, and that's cool. And having my comfort zone lets me feel really confident making those moves. I don't know that I can't do that elsewhere. I've just never tried it. So I want to see what the stakes feel like. And the worst case is a song doesn't work out. That I mix the song on headphones or in another studio and they don't like it. And you know what? Yeah. That's already happened in my life. That's already happened. And I didn't take it personally then, and I'll try not to take it personally this time. So I'm going to do my best to attempt this. And then I'll report back next year.
Well, it gets back to many versions of this old adage, but if you are not failing, you're not taking enough risks. Like you gotta, my favorite musical example probably of all time of this is the career of Pharrell, who dominated the 90s and 2000s. And as tastes changed, he just kept doing him, trying new things, doing art and furniture stuff, signing skateboarders, doing that thing. Sure, I'll try to score some films. And all of a sudden taste came back and he had Happy and Get Lucky and all these records. But it's like, you just keep trying stuff. And when I love listening to records by guys like Pharrell when he misses, because Pharrell's one of my favorite creative people of all time, let alone just music. And to hear his songs that aren't great is some of my favorite chicks. I'm like, this dude is taking risks. He's not missing with in the middle pop songs, but this applies to mixers, to whatever. I love the idea of, and I saw Tyler Johnson coming in there. I want to hear some Jon traveling mixes, Jon on the road. I want to hear what you do differently, what you learn. I had a question for you. I've never really thought about, because I've never really been a full-time mixer. And I would say, I think anytime I'm mixing stuff, I don't know if I've ever had an attended mix session. Mm-hmm. What does that feel like? What is the difference in how it feels, pros and cons, post-COVID, pre-COVID, whatever? Talk to me about attended mix sessions, how you feel, the etiquette, whatever.
Good question.
Thank you.
I don't have any rules. So the only rule is fill up the water filter when it's nearing the end. So if you're going to go access my refrigerator and pour yourself some water, if I'm not, doing it for you, just fill up the water cooler, the water pitcher. So that's the only rule. Anything else goes. So you can sit anywhere in my space. You can put on anything. No cigarettes, but you can smoke up here. You can light candles. You can light the incense that I have. You can just participate in my life, right? So I think that I don't know if that goes without saying, but that creates a level of comfort that everyone feels like they could do whatever they want while the mix is going down. So because you've been to my space, not everybody on this has seen my space. It's pretty large. So you can participate by being in the studio, or you can go to 2 or 3 or 4. I think I counted the other day. There's like 50 plus areas, like seats to sit on in this house. So you can sit anywhere. So then I like that because maybe for some of the day, people are on the other side of the loft watching TV or on their phone doing Instagramming or whatever they're doing for running their business as artists or producers. And I'm, hacking away at the thing, or they're on the couch behind, or they're standing. Or yesterday, Andrew Luce, who's the producer on this project, was like, "Can I sit next to you and breathe on you? Like, would that be awkward?" And I was like, no, please sit next to me. Like, I didn't feel any more anxiety with Andrew sitting next to me than I did with him on the couch or the other side of the studio. And he participated in all of that journey, and not one part of that made me anxious. In fact, I think my favorite was him watching, because there is this sense of, we're doing this together, and you're approving of the moves. You're giving me some sort of validation along the way with a noise or a smile if I turn to the right, or a head nod, or you're feeling it, right? I think there's something about that energy that is created together by sitting next to each other. So I think that's cool. I think one of the things that he made me uncomfortable with, but it was really interesting, was like at 10 minutes into the first mix, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to like cut you off, but when you're choosing the solo things, what makes you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea. I'm trying to find," and I answered. I had an actual answer that he thought was a good answer, and I was trying to find the harmonic support of the vocal. And this song I'm talking about specifically has about 36 synth stems. It's kind of a dancey record. It's only kind of up-tempo dancey record on this 7-song EP that we're doing, and it was very bright to me and super hyped. And I'm trying to figure out how to make it more emotional, but compelling, like I like to do, but also keep that high end, like rave-like intensity happening. So what I was doing was trying to find what chordal elements I could turn up the low mids and like give some juice and harmonic like push, and let the top end kind of be tucked a bit, just like on a rebalance. So I was just trying to rebalance the synths underneath the vocal in this thing. So however I got there, I had that answer somehow, but I didn't know I was doing that. My body, my speakers, my room, my taste, all of these are informing that. And because we're in the room, I can say that. And then he's like, "Oh, that's a good idea. So go for it." Like now I've been co-signed on, yes, that is what this song needs. Let's see how he does it. Then what was really cool, maybe a half hour later, he's like, "Can I sit in your chair?" Because I love when you got to sit in my studio. At some point, everyone has to sit in the mix position in the chair. It's where it sounds the best, just based on the treatment that I have there. So he listens down. I think I go get some water, I go to the restroom, whatever. I'm taking a perspective break from out of the studio. That changes things for me. I'm hearing, in the kitchen, I hear things differently. I can tell if something's way too loud, just like by being a bystander and not super in the zone. And, I come back and it's like, all right, main thought right now is I think we went a little too far on that low mid. I'm missing that super hype. Like, I want that super hype. I know why you did that, but like, can we get a little bit of that back? I knew exactly what he meant. And at the end of the session, he commented again. I'm just telling a real life story because that's like probably how we'll learn. At the end, he was like, damn, honestly, when I gave you that note, I thought that was about to be a 45-minute to an hour remix of this whole hook, and you did it in under 10 minutes. And I was like, yeah, because I knew what you meant. I already know that I pushed that. I already know what you're feeling because I know the moves that I made. And when I go off instinct in my comfort zone, I know I also am very geeky and I do like very even number boosts. And we've talked about this. I don't move faders. So if I see that I went 4 dB up on something, it's very easy for me to split the difference, right? It's very easy for me to remember what I did, why I did it, and reduce it by 50% or whatever I'm going to do, right? There's a little bit of math into my in my brain for how I'm making these moves. And I just liked that it translated and everyone was involved. We had a conversation about it, and where we wound up is so fucking good. And that's all that matters.
There's two thoughts, and Beckley just said something great in the chat. Involving the artist lends itself to less mixed revisions. Yeah, you definitely get fewer mixed revisions when everybody feels like they're a part of the process. Even if something that happens is, hey, can you try this? Then you do it, and they go, nah, go back to it. All of a sudden, it's like, cool, we've tried everything. We don't. That's 2 mixed revisions you don't have to do. And that's a really nice thing. I can't remember the other thing I was going to say, but that's a good point. Good job, Matt Beckley. Good participation. We love you. Go ahead. No, you. I was just going to say, do you, again, going back to talking about balance / a diversity of experiences, is it the sort of thing where if you're doing lots and lots of attended mix sessions, you're like, man, I really want to do some stuff that I can just get in my zone and not worry about people. And the flip side, if you're doing nothing but isolated mixes and sending them off, do you crave the other side? Is there like a balance in your mind?
No, because this is so rare. I don't know yet. I haven't really thought about it. So let's think about it now. I think I like both. I think attended sessions are better, for the given reason that Matt Beckley just shared. I think we'll get things done quicker. I think involving the artist, I think part of the mix process isn't even about getting the mix, quote unquote, right. It's more about doing what the artist wants. So if the artist is hearing it in your space with you and we're making decisions, though, hopefully it translates later, the decision made together offers a certain level of confidence with both parties that I think the decision will be trusted more after the fact and less reverting to the demo concept or rough mix. Let's not call it a demo all the time. Like it's a demoitis is a tricky word, even though I know I say it a lot. It's like, it's rough mix. It's not a demo. You could have demoitis and a manager or like a brother of an artist could have demoitis if they've only heard the demo and not the other iterations. But we're talking about rough mixes, which is a serious thing. It's less demo. I should be better at not saying demoitis.
Well, I wish we could find a word for it that basically says people are coming to you already loving what they have. And so what that means is that, and you are the professional that can parse through, okay, here's what you have that you love. Now here's some ways to make it better. And they're trusting you to make some of those decisions, but they're coming to you saying, I love this. And so no matter what you do, there's going to be potentially some discomfort with any changes, but they know they need to do it. But that's a natural thing. Like all of a sudden you're changing the thing that I love, which is what I hired you for. But it's also, so there's something much more important and complicated in there than just, helping me get, they like a stupid sound of a demo or whatever. It's deeper than that. And nothing
is stupid. Decisions were made for many reasons. One, it could be because of bad monitoring in a shitty room and it just sounds terrible, but that's what wound up happening. And that's, that's going to be part of the vibe. And that is what it is. But you're helping me figure out the point I'm trying to make, which is when you're in an attended session, it's easier to help walk the artist and the producer, but the artist through the process, because a lot of the times artists don't even understand mixing. They think they have to learn a new language instead of giving, like you reposted the Alex Toomey thing.
Oh, I love that.
Give me a note of like, make this more inquisitive, not turn the kick down.
He said, I'd much prefer a note like make the mix more inquisitive than turn the kick up 2 dB, which is exactly right.
Exactly. So that happening, if you're with the artist in the room, there's always this preface like, oh, I don't really know, like, the technical terms. And I very rarely interrupt humans, but I interrupt and say, just tell me how you feel. Just like, and just giving that peace of mind that all they have to do is explain a feeling to me. What's lacking, what's missing, what we want more of, what is this section supposed to feel like? Give me a reference, whatever. That is very easy to do in a room and make someone feel comfortable, confident in their own language, instead of through an email when you get a spreadsheet of fucking notes and it's all to say, I kind of just liked it how it was, and I think you went a little far. Like, beautiful. Just like say that. That is a good enough note. That is a very satisfactory note. But really, I think that at the higher levels of mixing, the artists are getting anxiety from the mix process a lot of the time. They've dialed it in with the producers so much. They think it's done a lot of the time. A lot of times the artist thinks it's done. And then the producer's like, oh, no, we need this mix. Like, we need Castelli to do his thing. We need Manny to do their thing.
By the way, like, as a finisher in production, it's the same way. We're like, everybody loves it. And A&R's like, we can make it like 5% better. And then I get brought in.
Sometimes
I'm like, all right, I don't want to
more.
fuck with it too much, but yeah, sometimes it's more.
Yeah,
Totally.
and sometimes it's more. And those are the times when I get the most excited. I'm like, but anyway, point being, I think walking the artist through, holding their hand a little bit, speaking a different language back to them and making them feel confident because it's their shit. It's them. I don't care about 2K. 2K means something to me, but we don't talk about 2K in the room. If someone brings up 2K in the room, they're sent to the corner. Like, you're fucking put a dunce cap on them, put them in the fucking corner.
Unless they know what they're doing. It's
no. Sorry,
speak the language that you know.
One more time. Let me rephrase it. If there's an artist in the room, there is no frequency talk by anybody if the artist is in ear sight. I don't want anybody talking about that because no matter what, you're putting a division between the artist and then the producer and mix engineer conversation. And the artist needs to always be able to understand what is happening as much as possible. And I really believe that. If the artist is taking a break and they're outside smoking a cigarette and you want to talk about, hey man, I just think like a little less 3K on this guitar thing, that's fine. But don't talk about that when the artist is around. Don't make it technical.
Well, and the only caveat I will say to that is we are increasingly getting to an era where the artists are touching the tracks and they're making demos and maybe they made some of the beat. And, so it's, I don't want to fully infantilize the idea of like, don't talk technical around the artist, because there's some artists who are producing and do so, it's a range of experiences, but I think your point is well taken, which is maybe this is just advice for people who are attending mix sessions, whether you're the producer, the artist, whatever. Don't feel like you have to speak mixer language. Don't feel like you have to speak technical language. Our job is to translate, again, our job being mixer or mastering engineer or producer or whatever, it's supposed to feel great. We're making music to make people feel things. So let's start there with the language, and then it's our job to figure out how to go, okay, you say you want the chorus to just feel like it's exploding in a stadium. Cool. I can figure out how to raise the gang vocals, make the snare have a little more reverb, make this part swimmier, turn up, like whatever it is. That's what our job is ultimately, is to make your feelings, to validate your feelings and make the record sound that way. So yeah. I
take your caveat and point. I still believe that you can do all of that with an artist that makes their own beats, tracks, understands what a Pro Q3 and Spectre is, and not use frequency talk and engineer talk. And it benefit the entire process.
Yeah.
I love Matt Beckley's "Don't be a fucking nerd."
If you go to John's studio and there's an artist in the room and you say "hurts," you're thrown out the window.
Second rule: fill up the water filter and don't use frequencies in communication.
Okay. If somebody attends a mix session at the gift shop, can they raid your wine fridge?
No.
More rules coming in.
They can ask. Hold on, this is good. I love this. Let's figure out the rules of the gift shop together.
What I always say to people when they come over is like, you can, because I don't have like fancy wine, but sometimes I'll have champagne. It's like, you can open anything you want except ask before you open a bottle of champagne. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Take whatever you want. Mi casa, su casa, do whatever you want. But
at this point, 95% of the wines and champagnes that I have are already in my brain spoken for, either a person or a circumstance.
Don't touch the wine.
That's how I buy my wine. It's thought for a moment with someone specific usually, but I do have bottles that yes, I would just open. So yes, I wouldn't say raid, but always ask, and I'm down to pour. Would be the actual answer.
Ask, but let me pour. That's the that's the answer.
And if someone has a specific taste in wine and wants to know if I have something specific, and they're very into wine or a specific region, and I have that, no matter how fancy it is, I will probably generously open it.
So basically start the wine conversation, which will also double the time of the attended mix session due to drinking and talking about it. But don't open it automatically. Let John open it and pour. He's happy to.
Should we think about more rules? This is fun.
No, I think those are all the gift shop rules. I
really like the attended session thing. I think I'm better in the room as a person in an attended session. I think people understand me more when they're in the room with me, and that's only going to help me feel more confident on the mix, on the record. And I think we might have talked about this once, but every time I send a mix off, I have zero confidence in it. And then Eric Madrid at one of the nights when we talked about it, this was like, they're paying for us to be confident. I'm confident in every mix I sent off. And I was like, well, that's crazy. I think when I'm in the room with someone mixing, that is when I feel the most confident, because you're going to get a real-time feedback of, oh, I don't like this, or that's not working for me. And then there's no guesswork after you send it. Now, we might send it, and in the car, something isn't translating the way that I thought it was, or they thought it was, because they're not used to my speakers. But a few days in, you're adapting. Even a few hours in, you're adapting to the room. And, where, maybe there's a couple of notes to do, but no one's like, oh, we went the complete wrong direction. And I think that just adds confidence. And our job, like Eric said, is to be confident in saying, this is where I think it should be, and I think this is done, or close to done, with a little bit of push and pull from the producers, artists, A&Rs, and the team. But hey, Castelli thinks it's done. Cool. And I think that's our purpose as an engineer or as a finishing producer and mixer, like you do, is just to put a stamp on it. Sometimes, it's less is more, and you could even, there are times where I want to be like, hey guys, just use this mix. It sounds great, but we're already, 7-8 songs deep into an album. And maybe my purpose on this record is to just make it feel like it fits on the album a little bit more. Similar mix bus, similar, gain structure, and just a similar rebalance, just enough to get it to fit on the album. And that's all that song needs, right? Maybe that's the purpose of that mix. But sometimes it's like, this one sounds really good. And sometimes it's not that. And in the room, you can make that decision. Something that I think Kian said when we had our little roundtable hang at your place, where he was basically saying, in the communication with the artist, his first version is, he's like, this is how I think it should sound. There's that confidence of like, I've made it sound not in an arrogant way, but in my professional ears, you hired me, this is how I think it should sound. And then from there, let's make adjustments. Let's get it to how you want it to sound. But that confidence of that first version, I think is an interesting, I'm always nervous when I send shit off, but it is definitely like, I like the way it sounds. I hope you like it too. I'm just nervous that they won't like it, but I definitely like it. I think I always like what I said. But I don't always think what I sent first is better than mix 9. You know.
By the way, this is an aside, but I don't know how much, since you're not on the Discord, there's a 30, maybe it's 28, 30 person collaborative track that has been created on the Discord. And I think there's going to be, I don't know if it's a mix competition, but a bunch of people are like, can we all mix it also? So there's like a crazy thing happening in Discord. And I just wanted to shout out the Discord because the Discord is awesome.
How do we do that? How do we all mix the same?
Well, there's a Pro Tools session with like, I think it's 28, or somebody will say in the chat there, but I think it's 28 or maybe 30. Initially it was 32 people. And I think based on schedules or whatever, I think it's 28 different people, basically one track at a time, have made an entire song. I started off with a loop and people just started adding and adding and adding and adding. And I think there's now at least a Pro Tools session full of a song. And I think the people in the Discord are going to, a bunch of different people are going to mix it or something. I don't know. There's just cool stuff going on in the Discord. I wanted to shout it out.
Is everybody going to mix it individually, or are 28 people going to mix one part?
No, I think it's going to be, people are going to just grab the session and do what they do. And it's going to be fun. And people are going to hear different perspectives on things.
Okay. I got an idea. Since I'm not on the Discord, can I pick a winner of the mix competition and give them a gift or something? Like, can I offer some sort of...
I am confident the answer is yes. I mean, the Discord is not, I don't run the Discord. The Discord is run by the community and there's moderators and things like that. But absolutely.
Everyone votes. That's like, you gotta have a blind taste test. Tyler,
I don't know.
my note is less 2K. My God, he's already giving the note.
Can I also just shout out how the fact that, there's like Grammy winner, multi-platinum, #1 song, #1 album, mixers, producers just hanging out in the chat today, just talking shit. It's a fucking blast. I love this.
Shout out the biggest shit talker of them all, Tyler Johnson, who has the longest running #1 of the decade as of today. 12 weeks is the longest of the decade.
Wow.
That is crazy. It's in the top 10 of the longest running songs, the highest being Old Town Road at 16. Yep. There's a bunch of 14 weeks, and then there's like a 13, and now he's at 12, but it's the highest of the decade.
Well, so, I know who's buying drinks this weekend.
Yeah, I was just...
Well, yeah,
so funny.
I know people would love to have you weigh in on the mixes and be involved with the Discord community. There's obviously tons of love for you there, and yeah, it's pretty cool what the Discord is doing. So I definitely just wanted to shout that out. There were a few good questions this week. Couple quick things. This question gets asked every couple of months about chair recommendations. I would just say go on the Discord. There was just a discussion about that, about what chairs people are using. I also think there is no chair that's going to keep you from having back problems if you just sit down all the time. There just isn't one. We're not meant to sit in that position for hours and hours and hours. So whatever chair you get, make sure that you're taking breaks and getting some physical exercise, or even just, touching your toes and, I don't know, doing a push-up or something. You got to get out of the chair. But I would say go on the Discord. I think within the last week or two, there was a big discussion about it. People were sending links. And again, Discord is a better brain than John or I for things like that. I don't know, you if you have any thoughts about it. I know we've talked about it before.
I mean, I just got the new Herman Miller Cosm chair, and it's changed my life. So I'll just speak on what I have.
Yeah, people generally like the
let's
Herman
just
Miller
jump back to Tyler and New York and drinks, and he said that I picked the bottle, so he just got himself into some trouble. Good thing that he has a #1, because I'm gonna get a nice bottle.
Oh, he says you get to pick the bottle. Sorry, I lost you for a second. I don't know if it's my connection or yours. Yes.
So he just got himself into some deep trouble. We should probably get a Magnum of something.
Yeah, he didn't specify the size of the bottle. It's diabolical. Get double magnums. For those that don't know, that's a 4X normal bottle of wine. A double
2X,
magnum.
1.5 liter, 2X.
No, but there's double magnums.
And there's triple magnums, and there's a double is 1.5 liters. Double magnum would be whatever that is, 3 liters. And there's a 6 liter.
of expensive things. Well,
I think the ones at the F1 podium is a 6-liter. They have like giant fucking.
Oh, right. They
shake them up and they sprays for minutes.
Well, shout out Tyler Johnson for just being an awesome human, and congrats on his success. I've been talking to him about coming on again. We're going to try to do more producer talk and try to do some screen sharing stuff, because I know that we had a great episode when he was on talking about some of the drum stuff he was doing, and we were talking the other week, and he's like, I'd really like to actually show some stuff on screen, which I know people would love. So we're going to try to figure out how to do that, whether it's Instagram or whether we just do it through the YouTube channel or something. Go subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't. That's where you can search for things. We got clips, all that shit. Okay, so let's see. Here's a question that I thought about, and I really can't think of something. I mean, I have like a couple little ideas, but Zach asked this great question. I don't know, from sometime in the last couple weeks. What's a tool that you wish someone would build to help you mix and produce? Like, is there something?
Audio movers with a video in there with no latency.
So what's the, people are talking, we're going to get it in the chat right now. I don't know if it's Lander or one of these other things. Apparently there's other features, services that people like. Have you looked into any of those other things?
I haven't, but there's nothing that has video running as a plugin in Pro Tools that's sending, because Pro Tools, all of the DAWs have a video engine. So sending a video engine output at the same latency level as whatever the audio is. I'll say audio movers for now. It could be Zoom, connects and joins forces with audio movers. Lander has a video. Huh?
Oh, somebody said Lander was laggy.
Laggy
I don't know.
Cool. Awesome. So we're figuring it out now. It hasn't been sorted. Well, maybe your Wi-Fi is not good enough. I don't know. Audio slows down. We definitely don't want that. That's, yeah, whatever. That would be the tool. A very stable video and audio sending and receiving plugin that works within the DAW, so you can hear through headphones, speakers with no latency. So when you press play, everyone's hearing it and seeing each other at the same time. Then there could be a hotkey, or you just keep the window open so you can mute the send and return from either one, so you're not hearing it back through the speakers in the room. So you don't have to toggle between apps to do so. That would be the best tool. I don't need another EQ. I don't need a smart EQ that tells me the bass and we already have that shit. I don't need any more compressors. I don't need another chorus. I can't think of another tool that I care about. Do we need another clipper? I used 6 yesterday on the same mix. Like, do I need a 7th clipper? Do I need, for producers, I'm sure there is better, same MIDI type shit, like sending MIDI output and reading like a sample and the chord so you can do that thing. That's not really tight yet in a lot of softwares. That's a cool thing. More samplers that are just better. Like, those are cool, I guess. But as a mixer and engineer, geez, the records have been sounding so much worse with new tools than when we had tools for decades prior in a lot of ways.
The only thing that I can think of, and by the way, I think it's you should definitely check out Lander. And then somebody said something else in here. What was it called? Source Connect? I don't know what that is.
Source Connect. Do they have video? Because Source Connect is what Tony and Serban used to use before Audio Movers.
Do they use Audio Movers now? I haven't had.
Yeah.
Mixed something in a while.
Yeah. Source Connect works through iTunes. I don't know if Serban's still doing that. I haven't produced, so.
That's what I remember.
Tony
years ago.
Tony's Audio Movers. Yeah.
The only thing from this production standpoint that I can think of, and I'm sure there are times when I'm like, I wish they had it, but I can't think of off the top of my head. I would like better integration between DAWs. I would like to be able to make my tracks in Ableton, cut vocals in Pro Tools without having to, rewire. I think is no longer a thing, or it's. I think with the updates, it's not happening, but. I really want to be able to make my tracks in Ableton, not have to then bounce stems, pull them into Pro Tools, and cut vocals, because Ableton is just not nearly as good for cutting vocals, and Pro Tools is not nearly as good for quick idea generation, at least for my workflow. We don't need to get into that discussion totally, but I think it's pretty well established for me, at least. Making beats in Ableton is easily the most fun. Yeah, easily the most fun, and cutting vocals in Pro Tools is easily the most stable and usable. So figuring out how to connect those would be amazing, but there isn't I don't know, maybe there's not enough people who want that, or it's hard to build, or how they're changing. Whenever they change a version of one of those programs, it just gets really complicated because you have to you have to rebuild something each time.
That is hilarious. I'm heading to lunch. You guys could be okay.
Yeah, the relationship between Matt Beckley and the whole universe, but especially Kian on the Discord, is one of my favorite things.
Agreed. I can think of a tool. I can think of a tool. I want a tool that knows the curvature of microphones, of all the new modern shitty remakes of microphones, that has an EQ that the presets are the reduction points of the shitty harmonics that they induce in people's voices. So you can have
interesting.
You can have a U87, a modern U87 reduction preset, or just someone put together a folder of these curves that goes into Pro Q3, and I can just load them on up.
It's a
CA100 sound better.
Unmodeler. Microphone unmodeler.
Yes, a microphone unmodeler. That's the tool I want most. And I don't fuck with Soothe. I don't want your Soothe on my session. I don't want your smeared fucking lack of punch plugin everywhere on your shit. It's fucking crazy how terrible that thing sounds. And it's supposed to do this concept. It's not good. It tricks you to think it's good. Everyone, Soothe is a conspiracy. Wow. And I'm here to tell you.
You're a Soothe truther. Wow.
I'm a Soothe truther. That thing is a disaster for transients, really? For attack. I shouldn't say things so definitively, but it's a conspiracy.
I'll be honest. I've never used Soothe. I've seen it. I've seen people pull it up a few times. And
don't even try.
It seems like there are other tools that I would use for similar things. Some people really like them, so I'm
setting up a second computer, as I mentioned, and I'm deciding what plugins I want because I'm already super minimal. And yeah, Spectral Shaper is a great tool because there's no phase. The phase cohesion remains. There's only one band, so there's no crossover points. I'm setting up, and Soothe will not be on my second computer. So there you go.
Yeah, sorry, Soothe, or the company that makes Soothe. You're not getting the Jon Castelli coveted endorsement today, unfortunately.
That's why we do this with no sponsors. I don't give a fuck.
And how, my friend? Yeah, I like the idea of a microphone unmodeler. I like the idea of understanding, because that is, somebody actually asked that question. I don't know if I wrote it down, but it was, what do you do when you have vocals? How do you mix vocals with recorded with shitty mics? And that's the thing, is figuring out how to get these weird resonances and this weird high end. And it's basically impossible to make a bad microphone sound like a good microphone.
Yes.
It's just, you can't do it. So you have to find, and hey, maybe Soothe is the right tool for one of those moments. I've never used it, but yeah, there's lots of tools. You got to find the resonances. I actually, one of my favorite, obviously Pro Q3 has the spectrum analyzer, which shows you exactly, just loop an S that's sticking out, and you can see it's like, oh, it's 4,200 hertz. That's exactly where it is. And whether you pull it down with that, or you do a dynamic EQ, or you use like a Weiss de-esser or one of these other things, whatever the tool is, like, that's the best way to figure that stuff out. But boy, is it hard when you get a vocal that has that just like weird high end, like, it's just like, it's just so
weird.
It drives me insane. And
I'm notching out 9K, 10K, 11K all day. Yeah. All day. You could hear that on PMCs. Like, that's the best part. To me, that's the best part of the PMCs. You can really hear that high end. And I'm like, people, I don't want to just take a shelf and take it all down a lot of the times, but I definitely, like, I'm not afraid to do notches at whatever that top end shit is. And then maybe I'm going to reboost. We talked about this. Like, I might do that before a VLC or before my tubes and before my mix bus. So I'm bringing it up again, but I'm getting rid of just those points that are obnoxious. Like, you don't need that much 10K. Like, I don't understand. Like, that's not musical. And
by the way, really quickly, as an aside from this, or as part of this, this is why I want to find I need to find PMCs because for what I'm here in New York is because the only way to treat this stuff is to be able to hear, and I'm used to them. So there's other great speakers that would do this. You could, if you like ATCs or whatever it is. But for me, I'm so used to the PMC high end. That's how I'm going to be able to finish a mix is because I'm going to go into the room and I'm going to pull up a couple songs I know and I go, great. I get used to the reflections for a minute. I know how this high end sounds. Now I pull up the session with the vocal lead. I can do 75, 80% of the mix just organizing on headphones. I got a couple pairs of headphones. I got my AirPods. I can make stuff work just off the laptop, but I need to go into a room with a place I can hear very clear high end. So the answer really to how do you deal with a bad sounding microphone vocal is you're dealing with bad high end. So find a way to hear all of that high end very, very clearly.
I just figured out, Kian and I just figured out the tool that we need is a Soothe hardware that can go before the PMCs.
I love that. Like the Auto-Tune hardware, like the L2 hardware. Let's go.
We need Soothe hardware. If Oak Sound is listening, collaborate with a hardware company and make a Soothe hardware. See, let's talk about the conspiracy for a minute. There's
the conspiracy. Okay, let's go. He's a Soothe truther. Let's go.
You put Soothe on.
Okay.
And for a minute, you think, oh, it sounds smoother. It sounds less harsh.
Sounds more soothing.
Sounds more soothing. Which I don't know why you'd want something so soothing all the time. I mean, like, if Playboi Carti sounded soothed, I don't think we'd like Playboi Carti as much, So you put something on and it tricks you. Depending on what you're listening to, headphones, like cheap headphones or great speakers, whatever the extremes are that you're listening, most likely you're going to put it on and you're going to say, oh, I get that. That sounds better. It sounds less harsh. And as you go on throughout the mix, you're not checking the decision. You're not going back and bypassing it again. So I've done this before, right? Because I thought Soothe was great for a couple of days. But I would go back to it because I don't understand Soothe, right? There's a plugin that I don't understand. Gullfoss is the same thing. I don't really understand it. When I go back, bypass, listen to it, I always like it better. And granted, besides the joke from my live streams that I do 200%, that was an accident. Let's just clear the air. I use about 4 or 5%. And when I bypass it, it mostly sounds better. I check this throughout the mix. Sometimes I don't put it on my bass. Sometimes I try it on the bass. Sometimes it's not as good. I take it off. I never use it on drums. It makes the drums sound too in the key, a bit too musical. They lose some of their aggressive overtones. It smooths things out a little bit. But Soothe, every time I would go back to it, but I grew up this way mixing. I'm a big bypasser. Tony really got me into the bypass later on. See how the plugin worked in the chorus versus when you chose it in the verse. Should you dupe the track out? Was it already all right in the chorus and you didn't need to change it now that the balances are different? So this is my practice. And with Soothe, every time I would go back to it, I would go, oh, this isn't better. This isn't better. And I thought it was initially, right? So that's all I want to say is we don't know what's going on with that plugin. If Oak Sound wants to join us on this, I'll call them on. We can chat with them. They can tell me what it's doing, and I'll try to understand what it's doing. But all these micro movements are actually adding, let's take a dynamic EQ, for example, that I do all the time. You're inducing little bits of distortion. Every time the thing moves, there is distortion of some sort. It's
phase and distortion a little bit.
Phase and distortion, right, with all these things. So you're sacrificing. That's why you probably don't want to do it in non-lin mode because you're going to start smearing transients too. That's what this is doing. When you're oversampling, when you're in the non-lin or ultra mode in Soothe, it's smearing things, creating a lot of phase and a lot of little low distortion moves. But they're doing it thousands of times in that plugin versus in Pro Q3, maybe you're doing 12. Maybe like I try to not do that many, but maybe there's 6 on this vocal I'm doing today. But there's not 1,000. It's not everywhere, and they're not connected. I never let a crossover point hit the other one. I have them individually. And if they're getting too close to another one, I'll use another plugin after that. So the phase alignment is not existing in the same tool. That's the only time I'll use a duplicate of something. It's usually like after a saturator, or I'm doing one EQ and then I have some sort of limiter or saturation, then I'll do it again after that. because you're reshaping the phase relationship. You're not doing it all in one plugin in a mysterious way. And I just challenge everybody that uses it all the time to bypass it throughout the mix process or the production process. And check back with me next week, and maybe it's going to be great and you're going to love it.
Well, I'll let the opinion stand, as I have not really used Soothe much at all. Certainly, we have talked increasingly in the last few months about things like saturation and processing generally, making things a bit less clear, people killing transients with saturators and clippers and that sort of thing. And I think we're going to, I like the idea of going into an era where you're leaving things a little bit harder, a little bit more aggressive. And, you know, we'll see how we're talking about it in 6 months, because I'm sure
I'm going to do everyone a favor, and I'm going to use Soothe today, because now that I've demonized it, I'm going to use it today. See what happens.
And shout out Kian for the closing burn. He comes in with the best timing every time. John,
are we doing this while we're in New York?
I mean, maybe we should. We could just sit here and go live. Let's figure it out. You know, I'm mostly here to hang out and hang out with my brother, who I think arrives in the next day or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we'll go. Maybe we'll get drunk and go live, and then not save the episode, and hopefully people don't screen record it.
Nice. All right,
I'll see you in a few days, my friend.
Can't wait.
I'm gonna go jump on the Discord, where I'm sure there's gonna be some fun.
Cool. Peace.
Bye, guys.